Good evening. Thank you for joining me once again. I look forward to having our discussions. I hope I will be able to take your phone calls tonight. Crunch time is here. We know it's 50 plus days to elections. We've got some significant developments that is going on in our nation. And tonight I want to focus a lot on what many former APNU supporters that I've visited, in Sophia, in Linden, in South Georgetown, and they have asked me to address a few of the issues. They are very upset that Mr. Granger in 2020 campaign will come back, have the audacity to come back to them. And I was in New Amsterdam also over the weekend, to come back to them with a banner basically that says, we will give you the good life. And he is honest and he has integrity. And I repeat, and this is coming directly from people that have voted for APNU in 2015. Why would Mr. Granger, after 4.5, close to 5 years, that didn't deliver any of those promises to his supporters, again have the audacity to come in to their village or his people? He won't come into the village, and I'll get to that in a few minutes, to tell them again, we're going to give you the good life. And I would ask APNU people the same questions that may not have spoken to me. Did you get a good life in the last 5 years? Absolutely not. Did you get new jobs that Mr. Granger promised? Absolutely not. The 10-point plan he had for Linden? Absolutely not. The Georgetown promises? Absolutely not. And it goes back to the dishonesty. Mr. Granger poster out there says he's an honest man. Did you know that just this week in the Gazette, the official Gazette, that they give themselves a pay increase again? Because I know they're going to lose and they want a higher pension. Imagine Mr. Jordan in last October in the budget speech says, no increases for government officials. Yet the official Gazette published this week have given themselves the pay increase equivalent to the other public servants in order to get a bigger pension. Mr. Granger cannot, with a good heart and a good face, look at you now and tell you he's an honest and decent man. An honest man would have never hide the $18 million from the oil company. An honest man would have never negotiated some of those contracts that he has negotiated. An honest man would never give a contractor $800 million to build a school when its cost from the engineers is no more than $300 to $400 million. Why would you give a contractor $800 million and then prepay that contractor 40% of the work? They're positioning money to benefit them regardless of what happened. And that is dishonesty. And I think a lot of the APNU supporters asked me to dedicate this program to exposing why they are, one, concerned that they are looked at as basically gullible, that Mr. Granger believes that they are gullible, that he can come back with the same 2015 campaign. I would be absolutely embarrassed to come back from 2015 to 2020 and says I've achieved anything. 30,000 people out of work. And I know many of those APNU supporters that I've spoken to, and I'm a data research guy, and I never speak without having the backup documentation and data, that they don't have 30,000 out of that 30,000. Significant number are APNU supporters, coalition supporters that voted for Mr. Granger. They don't have the jobs. He comes back to them with all of the flags and the posters around the country. He will give you a good life. 2020, after 5 years of not even be able to deliver one of his promises, that he will give you a good life. As an economist, I can tell you, I look at some of the numbers today. In 2019, our revenues was close to $330 billion. $330 billion. They have spent $360 billion in 2019. That means we are not bringing enough revenues in our country, but they're spending more. And I'll get to where that could have gone. But imagine 330 billion. We lost sugar. We're down on rice production, gold production. We're down on forestry. Yet the government revenues was $330 billion. You know where that revenue came from? You and I. It's the tax system that Mr. Granger has put on us that is keeping that number at the level. And they don't have, even the decency, and again he used the word, he's a decent man, the decency to spend less than they're bringing in. So $330 billion in 2019, they spent $360 billion, $30 billion more than we have in the pot. But again, because the revenues come from your sales, the revenues come from taxes, it comes from all your productive sectors. And if our productive sectors are down, the only other place Mr. Granger is getting revenues from is we the people. When you look at the gold prices, the market down in our country, and from 2015 to 2019, and the taxes on the miners, for example, the taxes in the environment, that has just destroyed our mining industry. But let me bring you back just to the city of Region 4. When you look at the industries, Exxon will build their headquarters here, but may hire maybe 100 of us, if that much. When the PPP prior to 2015 brought in all the call centers, and you can go down, I think it's Wellington Street, where some of the big call centers are, they hire, and some of them out of the city, hires thousands of people, the call centers. Mr. Granger has not announced a single new call center that will create jobs in the last 5 years. So when you put all of that together, when an APNU supporter would stop me on the street, or when we go to their communities to pass out our manifesto, and they would look at me and says, how could that happen? What does Mr. Granger think we are for him to come into Sophia and says, well, look, I built you a road. I'm paving the road, which was funded, by the way, on the PPP. 5 years later, Mr. Granger is in Sophia building that road, finishing that road, but that it was funded on the previous government. Would Mr. Granger walk among you in Sophia, in South Georgetown, shake your hand? Somebody said, we should not talk about his health. I go, hell no. If I am taxpayers and I'm paying my money right in the tax system, Mr. Granger works for me. And I have a right to ask him where he's spending that money. He has traveled around the world in the last 5 years at $300 million. We know he spent a lot of money going to Cuba for his treatment. I have a right to question his health because it's our taxpayers' money funding that. So again, going back to he flew with a helicopter from this house in Pearl to the parade ground and then took a car to the Marriott. Could not walk among you, the APNU supporters. Mr. Granger could not walk among you, the APNU supporters. He is an elitist. So when you believe you're voting for a man that is going to somehow become decent and honest and be able to take care of you and give you a good life, just study the last 5 years. Don't even pay attention to what the PPP has done in 2015 and before. Don't even pay attention to their manifesto. Just ask yourself the question, what Mr. Granger has done for you from 2015 to 2020. You're a PNC supporter, you're an APNU supporter, you voted for the coalition. And he never came to visit you in 5 years. Never did. Some of them are now going back, trying to show up in your areas. And I'm telling the truth. Some of them are coming to your areas now, telling you give us another chance. We have to do all of this extra work. What extra work? Extra work means developing our nation, continue to grow, not taxing our nation where you now have, that much billions of dollars in the treasury, but yet you spend $1.3 trillion over the last 4 years. $1.3 trillion. Get your handle around that. Write the numbers down on a piece of paper and answer me that question. The question, have you benefited from the government, Granger, the dishonest man, spending $1.3 trillion of our money? Did you benefit from it? If the road in Sophia is being built from a PPP funded project, if the Sheriff Street project is built on a project funded by the PPP, if the East Coast Road is being built on a project funded under the PPP government, if the airport is built on a project funded by the PPP government, where did Mr. Granger spend $1.3 trillion? So as you look at crunch time, as we get closer to March 2nd, this is about honesty and decency. And Mr. Granger should not have the audacity to put his picture up and tell you he's an honest and decent man. That is a lie. He cannot look in your face, in my face, and the nation's face and says he is an honest and decent man. Corruption is evident throughout his government. Corruption is evident throughout his government. These are real evidence, not perceptions, not the fact that they went after the PPP government for perceived corruption. 5 years later, not a single court case can be proven. Nothing is out there. But the evidence so far, so the $1.3 trillion, I feel sad for our people. Because ultimately, is our young children that doesn't have the $10,000 grant that the PPP used to give. Is our young children that don't have their parents working, that are struggling to go to school and get food in their lunch kit. It's our people that Mr. Granger has put on the breadline. And that is no decent man. So you can say I may have beaten up Mr. Granger, but it's on data. And we can like a lot of us, we can dislike a lot of us. But when someone that we people voted for, that promised the nation these many things that they will do in 100 days, and 5 years later they have not done it. You see all the signs around the country, what they have delivered. And I want you to go and really read those signs. And you ask yourself, did that put money back in my pocket? Did that create a job for me? Did that create education for my children? Mr. Granger promised free education in 2015. University fees went up by 33%. So it's not just that he promised certain things. He actually, not that he just didn't deliver on it, he increased it the opposite. He did reduce VAT from 16 to 14%, but he conned all of us. Mr. Granger is one of the biggest con mans I've ever seen. He said, I'm going to reduce VAT. So he reduced VAT from 16 to 14%. Then, with a stroke of a pen, increased 200 plus taxes. If you compound and you take the pieces of those taxes that he has increased, the 200 plus taxes, and you separate them and says, okay, a percent here, a 0.1% affects me, and you add up, you're probably almost paying 19 to 20% VAT right now in a total capacity. So it's a con. I'm going to reduce VAT from 16 to 14%, but now I'm going to tax you and get back my 2%, but I'm going to get another 4% from you. You want to know where the $330 billion came from in 2019, and the fact that it spent $360 billion. So where is the debt coming from? That means in 2020, when President Ali takes government, He's got to figure out how to pay that debt back. His plan calls for a vision of creation of jobs, increasing our productive sectors, looking at the opportunities that our industries bring to the table. And it's a very, very concrete plan. And you all should have a copy of that manifesto excerpts in your house. Don't throw it away. Take your time and read it. And as you read it, compare it to Mr. Granger's manifesto for 2020. Oh crap, the man hasn't even put out a manifesto for 2020. Because back in 2015, he's still telling you what he's going to do in 2015. He has not put out a manifesto. The people has put out their plans, over a month ago, and very concrete plans, very solid, strategic. It involves you and I. And Mr. Granger has only come back to you without a new manifesto because he has nothing new. If he hasn't delivered from 2015 to 2020, what new can he come and says, okay, I'm going to give you 10,000 new jobs? He said that, or whatever, back in 2015. He didn't give it. So he can't say, well, I'm going to increase it from what he has done. He is proud of Durban Park. $1.4 billion in Durban Park they built. $600 million from the Auditor General report, not the PVP, not Peter Ramsaroop, the Auditor General report that said $600 million is missing from Durban Park. Many of the PNC supporters showed up at Durban Park, ugly looking piece of work. Sad to have tourists drive by that and see that that's an achievement from Mr. Granger. And corruption of $600 million missing from one project. And you're going to go back to people and say, I want another chance. I want to give you the good life, but I'm going to fly in a helicopter from Pearl to Parade Ground. What happened to the Lexus? What happened to the 18 cars he drives on the road? You know what it costs to fly in a helicopter for an hour compared to driving from Pearl? Flying a helicopter from here to go to Hope Town for a rally, busing 128 buses or more. 1,500 buses came to Durban Park from around the country. When you move crowds like that around, it tells you that the active people, what they tell me as I travel around, and they tell our people, and they tell our next president, Akali, is that we have not gotten what we thought we would get. We know that the PPP prior to 2015 had many programs in place. When you look at the gold industry that is gone now, the gold was doing very well in 2015 because we had brought in the Ghana Gold Fields, we had brought in Troy Resources. Many of the big gold mines were functioning efficiently prior to 2015. Then Mr. Granger took all the small miners' concessions away, taxed the system, and it collapsed the entire industry. But the taxes that he's collecting from you and me is holding the government up. So the numbers speak for itself. Mr. Granger should not send any of his people to any areas in Region 4, especially in the Georgetown area. He should not send his people into Linden because the bauxite industry is collapsing once again. The PVP 1992 and on brought in Bozai, brought in Omar, brought in Rusol, that has kept that industry going. And Mr. Granger has put such pressure on those companies that they're collapsing and actually want to pull out. Who is he hurting? It's you and me he's hurting. So as you drive around and every time you see decent and honesty, think of indecent and dishonesty. Mr. Granger is indecent and dishonest. Every time you see one of those posters around Georgetown, around the country, that says Mr. Granger is going to give you a good life, he's decent and honest, and he has integrity, that's a lie, because he's not. He didn't give you the good life. He's been dishonest. His own minister, Mr. Holder, the agriculture minister, said it's a bunch of old men. A bunch of old men in government that has no new ideas. No new ideas. It's time for them to go. What the PVP has done, and I think it's brilliant. When you talk with action. It makes for reality to come true. You look at the PPP candidates, and when you see, folks like that, many of those names out there, you look at young professionals, you see young doctors, you see young business people, you see some students, you see a cross section of gender and ethnicity. You're proud to know that Dr. Ali and Dr. Jagdeo didn't just say, we believe in young people. They're going to deliver the young generation. And Mr. Holder on the PNC side commended the fact that that is what we need to do. We need to ensure our new generation takes charge of Guyana. Our new generation are the people that understand what their needs are. They know what they need in a job. They know what they've gone through. They've seen what their parents have suffered over the last 5 years. And by putting them in place now, that team of the PPP candidates, young candidates, look at it. Don't take my word for it. Look at the pictures. Look at their background and education and their experiences. And you should be proud. And as a parent, I would be proud if my daughter gets that opportunity in the future. If my brothers and sisters get that opportunity. The fact that we now, in the older generation, and them in the grandpa side, Granger and the rest of the gang, can look back and says, you know what, the PPP has done the right thing. They believe in our country. They understand that it's a new generation that will take us. And you just go back to prior to 2015 and 2011 and 2006, when Dr. Jagdeo put many, many young people as ministers, Ms. Carolyn Rodriguez is Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Foreign Affairs, Dr. Ali is Housing, Water, Tourism, and you look at the list, and you wonder why Dr. Jagdeo was so successful, because he had people with energy, education, drive that was making the country better. And people try to beat up the PPP and says, what did you do in 23 years? Again, that is a flaw, because when you look at what 92 was, a country in debt, country bankrupt, and what they came to in 2015 with $665 million in the Bank of Guyana, all of the sectors were up. And then Granger came in, exactly what the PNC did in the 80s, when they took over from the British and brought our country to the knees. That is reality, people. This is not, again, PPP propaganda. This is actually the truth. So if you there as PNC supporter, an APNU supporter, really feel that, I need to keep my own, I need to vote for my own, just go back and think tonight, what did you get and what do you think you will get in the next 5 years? Don't waste your vote. Do not waste your vote. We've got a great country to go look forward to. Dr. Ali's presented a vision and a plan that is unique to our nation. It's going to take us to a new level. Some great investment opportunities coming up for many, many of us. We want to ensure that our local Guyanese benefit first before those foreigners benefit. Mr. Granger's given away a lot of land, a lot of contracts, a lot of concessions to foreigners. That got to change. Dr. Ali wants to make sure we the people benefit from it. Not an empty promise of a good life. That is an empty promise, and every APNU supporter looking at me right now can tell me that that's an empty promise. I'll take your phone calls. Yes, hello?
What the shit you said?
No cursing on the air. But, they have put their goons out to basically condemn it. If I had kept that caller, and sorry I had to cut him off because, we're on the air and we've got young children watching the program, and it's very disrespectful for an APNU supporter to call in and curse on national television. So it's a terrible thing, and tells you the behavior that is out there. We've got to ensure that we have decency and honesty. What Mr. Granger is teaching these people is no decency. It's indecent. When we were going down the road to president nomination, you got people that want to beat us up. What? This is 2020. This is the era of social media, of technological advancement, of cameras. And when you see that behavior, it's terrible that they can call in a national television and curse watching this program. I know my daughter, 14 years old, is probably watching the program and should not have to hear indecent language like that. Hello.
Good night, sir.
Good night.
I like your program, man.
Thank you.
I would like to ask you one question. In 2015, campaign with Mr. Harmon at Big Market Square, when he's very thousands of people in life was passing there. He was near repeatedly telling me what we're talking about. Thousands of life crashes. Actually, we got one answer now.
Okay. Yeah, the promises and the lies that all of them spoke in 2015, I think they probably came in with good intentions. I wouldn't say that they may not have in good intention. They got into power and they look at what the PPP ministers were making and they said, no way, we're going to take that little money. We're going to raise our salaries in 2015. We haven't worked yet, but we're going to raise our salary. I wish I could get a job tomorrow and I walk in there and the next day, I tell my boss, I'm going to raise my salary myself. They told us, we are the boss, we're the taxpayers. And then in 2020, imagine this week they put out the official gazette that they have taken another pay increase to ensure when they leave office March 2nd, they got a bigger pension. It's our money. Mr. Granger is working for us. He's want to be an elitist, he want to fly around in a helicopter and act like a big boy. And the fact is he doesn't realize he's spending our money. Drive your car. You already spent 20 million, Mr. Granger, on a Lexus. Drive the car to your meetings. Do not take our taxpayers' money and fly around in helicopters. Hello.
Hi, good night, Mr. Ramsaroop.
Yes, good night.
I'm just looking at the program as an investor and a Guyanese. We are on the west bank of Demerara. When last you drive on the west bank of Demerara to Wales?
Recently, yes.
Our west bank of Demerara was kept by Wales Estate. Everybody makes some money. Every family goes to school. Every people can have something in their lunch bag. And it was a disgrace and it was hardship. When you drive down to Wales and you see how the estate becomes, how the people lives have been what we call it goes down. You see, if our leaders goes up, we the population in this country goes up. And if our leaders goes down, we the people goes down. And it was the only investment to create employment for thousands of Guyanese.
Yes.
But Mr. Ramsaroop, is a heartbreaking thing that when you go up Wales, and that was the only source of income for those, not everybody is educated people. And most people go down to Georgia where they have a creation of jobs there.
Yes.
I only hope that our manifesto that produced by Mr. Ali or the PPP have to revitalize that piece of land.
Yes.
Where people can able to have a decent living. And you continue a good work because we don't pay you for that. We are looking at the television, we gain experience, we gain ideas, we want to know how our country go. You the people tell us that.
Thank you.
We're glad to know that if we get a change of government, if you can able to bring back that part of the country
Yes.
to a living standard. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I did go to Wales recently at Canal 1. I spoke there a couple of days ago. And it brings tears to my eyes when you listen to that caller and you go talk to the people. For Mr. Granger, the dishonest man, the man that lacks integrity, the indecent man that would fire sugar workers right next to Georgetown, much as what he did in Albion and Skeldon and all the other areas, is a sad thing because when you change industries, and those were government funded operations, you would have any leader around the world will never fire 30,000 people out of work. You would never do that. If you had options, say they had built 5 call centers in Wales and people now could have retrained and get new jobs, I can understand maybe that was a conscious decision. But to promise the sugar workers 20% increase in 2015 and then to turn around in 2016 and fire them, an indecent, dishonest Mr. Granger that has given our people a bad life. So every time you see good life, think bad. Every time you see honest, think dishonest. Every time you see decent, think indecent. And that's the description of Granger. Hello.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
You're doing a wonderful job. And that's also what Carl consider just now than too ignorant.
Thank you. Yes, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And as I close the program, we've got an election March 2nd. We know many people across the country have already decided basically who they're going to vote for. I know many people of the APNU supporters, the PNC supporters, we know the AFC is done. We know they when they saw what happened in Berbice with the PPP rally, they all got quiet because they know none of the people that voted for them in Berbice is going back. As we concentrate on Region 4 and Region 10 and Region 7, those are PNC strongholds. And when you listen to them, and I'm speaking to you directly now, you can call and curse me, but you have to answer your own conscience. You have to listen to your own conscience. Are you better off? Did you get a good life? Do you think Mr. Granger was decent and honest when he didn't follow the rule of law with the Constitution? When he did not follow the no confidence vote? When he took the $18 million from Exxon? When he raised your taxes, 200 plus taxes? When he lied to you that he's reduced taxes in VAT, when he raised all the other taxes? Right? Is that honesty? Dishonesty. So as you look at our plan, and if you have that still in your home, pick it up. Dr. Ali has promised and has committed that he will be an equal opportunity president. An equal opportunity president says, regardless if you vote for me or not, his job as the chief servant of our country, we are going to pay his taxpayers' money, paying it. He has to deliver to us. And he said his plan is to ensure an equal opportunity president. He's going to work hard to ensure that we deliver on our manifesto. He has put a plan together that is what I consider a business plan that takes into consideration foundation building of what needs for a nation to recover from the devastation of the last 5 years. Look at our social programs to ensure our needy get those things back in their pocket, the school grants and the jobs in the hinterlands. Buses and bicycles doesn't put money in our pockets. Durban Park doesn't put money in our pocket. It is creation of wealth, creation of jobs, ensuring new industries to come up, ensuring our current industries are taken care of, and ultimately our people benefit from the programs of government. The government works for us. The government doesn't build road because they want to build a road. We pay for that road. Granger doesn't build a road. You have to understand how it's done. Government responsibility is to ensure those things are done. So if they come and say, look at the road they built, ask them, when was that funded? It was funded under the PPP. Every single project was funded under the PPP that Mr. Granger is putting up that he has achieved. And that's all I'm asking you. Pay attention, read that manifesto, ask the questions. We'll be back in your area. We'll be holding our public meetings across the country. There's a big rally in Linden on Sunday. There's one in Essequibo on Saturday. And, we have public meetings around the country. You can come to it. You can listen to Dr. Ali's plan and some of the other speakers speak about a manifesto, but you also can ask us the questions. If you want to know a little more of where you fit, where in Region 4, what will happen in areas of new industries, where would the new call centers be built, where would the tourism and the massive hotel industry take place, where the type of jobs I can look forward to, how do I get that education free over the next 5 years, how do I get one of those online scholarships that Dr. Ali talks about, 20,000 of them. Where do you fit? You fit because you're part of the plan, an equal opportunity president of Dr. Ali, committed to March 2nd to take the reins of government restore our democracy, bring back national pride, sense of duty, and ensure that our duty of hope, that we all believe in our nation, the duty of hope, safer environment where we can sleep better in the night, security will be solved, and better health care. Those are the things we want. Jobs, health care, safety, and an environment where we all can work together in peace and harmony. Equal opportunity, President Dr. Ali. I think we know where our supporters are going to vote. For those PNC supporters and APNU supporters, we ask you for your vote because we want you to be part of this development. We want you to help us ensure that all these plans come to place, because every single Guyanese, regardless of your race, regardless of your color, textures of your hair, ethnic background, whatever it may be, religious background, you will benefit under Dr. Ali's administration. Thank you and God bless you.